What is going on, YouTube? It's Tyler from Mission VR, where it's my mission to bring you guys good quality VR content. And today we have some absolutely exciting, unbelievable news that is going to shake the VR world forever, and it's going to change all of our lives. Let's be honest, as a VR gamer and somebody who's super enthusiastic of VR, this is going to change all of it. It's going to change everything. It is going to blow people's minds how awesome this is going to be for VR and what the implications of this is going to be for the future of virtual reality. And today we're going to be talking about the PlayStation VR 2 and what this means for VR. We're going to go through the specs. We're going to go through all the games so far that have been announced. Well, we're going to talk about the major ones, and I'm going to put up a list of all the other ones. And we're going to talk about really the impact that this is going to have on VR. Now, just for reference, the original PlayStation VR, which sucked in comparison, I mean, just sucked massively compared to the PSVR counterparts. Like, it couldn't even hold its own weight. And yet it sold 5 million copies through 2020. That was the statistics from January 1st of 2020. It sold over 5 million headsets. Just for reference, the best-selling headset in the world is the Oculus Quest 2, which has sold 6.5 million to date. So that means that a headset that was released at the original first generation of headsets sold over 5 million headsets. That's a big number. That's mainstream before it was mainstream. Now, with VR being mainstream and the Oculus Quest making the waves it did, people are about to have their hands on a headset that is as powerful as a PC VR headset, for the most part. Yeah, and I know I'm gonna get some flack for that. I'm a PC gamer first. I get it. PC VR Master Race, PC Master Race, all in on it. But this is big for VR as a whole, huge. And for the consumers to get their hands on a headset that is going to have this type of power, it's no longer a gimmicky, arcadey Oculus Quest. And I love the Quest, and all you Quest gamers out there, I know you guys love your Quests and your VR experiences, but I'm telling you right now, if you have not put on a high resolution VR headset with in-depth, deep level graphical enhancements that come from a PC VR title, you have not seen the future of VR yet. These people that are going to invest in the PlayStation VR 2 probably going to see that, and it's going to make massive waves in the VR industry. So with that being said, guys, long intro, cold open there. Please do drop a like on this video, subscribe to my channel, share this video. We want this to go everywhere. I want everybody that doesn't have a PC or any VR headset, I should say, to see this video so that they are encouraged to go out and buy the PlayStation VR 2, because this thing is going to be incredible. I really do think that. I think this is going to blow the minds of so many people, and it's going to force the hands of other gaming industries and developers to develop better, higher quality VR games, which benefits all of us, the gamers. So drop a like, subscribe. Let's hop on into our specs section and talk about this headset. All right, guys, so talking about the specs of this damn headset here, this thing actually has a pretty good spec sheet and some things that we haven't really seen yet in VR. First things first, let's talk about the resolution. This is a big one. The original PlayStation VR here suffered. It was probably the worst. I think it actually was the worst out of all the Generation 1 headsets. So, of course, if you guys can remember going back to Generation 1, if you were one of the Generation 1 VR users like I was, well, at the time, it was great, but going from a current generation headset back to an old generation headset, it is like a massive jump down in quality of picture quality, which is certainly the most important thing in VR is picture quality, because that's what keeps you immersed into the game. There's no screen door effect, minimal screen door effect on the Oculus Quest 2 if it's running on a PC. Key word, if it's running on a PC, because that's important, because you can only increase the resolution as far as the hardware will allow it. That is key, because if you play the Oculus Quest 2 standalone, you will definitely have some screen door effect on further distances and bigger games. There's no doubt about it. You can't get around that. But I play Oculus Quest 2 connected to my PC, and I can see all the way across the map in Population 1 with pretty much minimal fuzziness. Now, albeit Population 1's a little bit less of a graphically intense game, but I've played other PC VR games where I can see a distance and there's no problems. I have minimal, it's still slightly there, but it's not jarring like it used to be. Well, PlayStation VR 2, 4K resolution, 2000 by 2040 pixels per eye. This is greater than the Oculus Quest 2's resolution. That's a big deal. That is up to standards on modern day, and you're going to be able to see the full effects of that with the processing power that is the PlayStation 5. So big deal on that. Foveated rendering. Here's a big one. We haven't seen that really in a headset yet. There's going to have eye tracking in this headset, and they're going to be tracking where your eyes are looking and rendering the resolution up in those particular locations. Foveated rendering is a big deal in VR, and I just don't know. This is something that we're not going to really know how effective this is until we actually have our hands on this headset. So either way, that's pushing the envelope forward, and that's pushing VR forward, and it's going to be on a console, which is so big. And we're going to talk about that later in this video, why that's big. 110-degree field of view. This is another big piece and another big feature here. Field of view right now is probably my biggest complaint with VR, to be honest. I'm pretty satisfied with the picture quality as of now. Of course, it can be better, and it will get better over time. But as of right now, I'm very satisfied with the graphical and picture quality of my current headset. Obviously, I want it to be better, and there's certainly going to be room for improvement. But right now I'm thinking, well, you know, I can still see these black edges. I kind of want to go, that next level of depth into the world where I don't see that anymore, and I'm completely surrounded by the game. So obviously, 110-degree field of view is not that. That is on par with what we currently have in most VR headsets, except for the Pimax. So, but that's a big deal because the original PlayStation VR had a smaller field of view than that. So people will definitely feel the effects of 110 degrees. And it's definitely it'll provide the same level of comfort as, you know, what's currently available on the market. This headset's going to feature a 90 hertz refresh rate, and it can go up to 120 hertz. Now, I don't know how that's going to work exactly yet, only because it's not going to be based on a PC. Like, the PlayStation 5 is the PlayStation 5. You know, you're not going to have the plug and play and the different types of specs that come with a PC. So, like, on my Oculus Quest, I can run certain games at 120 hertz. I can run, you know, some games at 90 hertz, depending on my specs in my PC. I don't know how it's going to work. I'm guessing it's probably going to be game dependent more than anything, but we'll see. Either way, definitely a good refresh rate, and it's going to, you know, that'll be really good. Inside out tracking, obviously the original PlayStation VR did not have this. You had to use the Move controllers or some other variation of controllers. Again, really was what set it back big time compared to its competitors. And the inside out tracking will obviously pair with the new controllers that it's coming with, which are much more of a modern design. And they will offer the adaptive feedback systems that come with the current DualShock sensor controller, which actually is, you know, my favorite controller I've ever played with in a console was the PlayStation 4's DualShock controller. I love that controller. I still use that controller whenever I play like Elden Ring and stuff. It's a great controller overall. It's a really comfortable controller. And I think that the adaptive feedback triggers are going to be really awesome in VR. I think it's going to add a little bit of an extra sense of immersion. Again, pushing the envelope here. This is a big one. I didn't think about this at all, and I think that it's going to add an incredible amount of immersion in the game. There's a headset tactile function. So there's a single motor in the headset that's going to have some tactility to it. So whenever, you know, wind blows or a bullet flies by your head, or, you know, anything that's keyed in the game, there's going to be a slight vibration or movement of the headset, you know, on the head. That's going to be a little bit of immersion thing. I mean, if you have a bullet whiz by your head and your headset on one side, you feel that vibration. It's going to be just enough to really, really immerse you into the game world. That's huge. It's small, but it's huge. Of course, adjustable lenses are going to be involved in this headset. And lastly, this headset is going to come out at $550, which is pretty expensive. It's actually more expensive than the base PlayStation 5, which is $500. So that's the spec section of this thing. It looks pretty good. I mean, on par with what we currently have right now, you know, on the market. It's a modern VR headset, but what's different about this headset, and we're going to get into that section, is what this is going to do for the mainstream VR user. And I think that's where this is going to change the lives of all of us, to be honest. But we're going to talk about our games here and what games are actually coming out, or the big ones that have been announced so far for the PlayStation VR 2. Now, we're going to go through this kind of short here because, you know, I don't think there's any reason to harp on this. I mean, I'm going to put a list up on screen after we talk about some of these games, because there's a lot of games that are actually coming to this thing. And I'm really excited because a lot of those games are games that, you know, I've played somewhat of or seen or I'm excited for myself. And I think that some of those are going to be multiplayer, which is going to add a huge swath of players to those games, basically reviving them. Horizon Call of the Mountain. Obviously, we saw this one announced. This is a AAA VR game. Definitely excited to get my hands on this one. It looks really good. Tales of Galaxy's Edge, a Star Wars title. Not a bad game. Definitely worth picking up, I think, if it's on sale. It's an interesting title, and if you're a huge Star Wars fan, there's definitely some call-outs there. We do have a new Resident Evil game coming, Resident Evil Village. Don't know what that one's going to be about yet. Looks pretty good. Obviously, Resident Evil 4 will be coming to this. That was a great title, and I think that that's one of those ones that people are going to love to experience. And I'm personally excited to see the graphical update in that game with the new hardware and the new thing. Demio's coming. Demio's a really fun tabletop RPG game. Definitely enjoyed that one. Here's a big one right here, No Man's Sky. This is a huge, huge, huge opportunity to sell headsets. Because I can tell you right now, as somebody who loves No Man's Sky, I can't really play No Man's Sky on my PC because, well, I shouldn't say that. I actually haven't tried No Man's Sky with my new graphics card, so shame on me. I need to hop back in. But my 1080 could not handle No Man's Sky in VR. Couldn't do it. It was almost unplayable how laggy it was. Definitely want to try it on this new one. This is big. No Man's Sky still has a pretty significant player base, and a lot of people will pick up a headset just to play No Man's Sky. So definitely a big one there. Walking Dead Chapter 2. This is going to be a good one as well. Definitely. Again, we're going to talk about why this is bigger than it is on the Quest. All of these games that are coming to this, that are also going to be coming to the Oculus Quest, it's more meaningful on the PlayStation VR, and we're going to talk about why. Firewall Ultra. Obviously, the first Firewall game was very successful despite its limitations being on the original PlayStation VR. I would expect this one to also be pretty successful. We have a kind of a cinematic trailer, not really a gameplay trailer, so definitely interested to see what the gameplay is on that one. Here's a big one. I think this game's going to sell a lot of headsets. Look, we all know shooters are what shooters are. They're the most popular genre video game out there. Everybody loves shooters. Shooters are what most console players love to play. I mean, Call of Duty, Battlefield, all those games sell. I mean, they have yearly releases, and they just constantly always are selling tons of copies because people love those games. Well, Crossfire Sierra Squad, this game looks fantastic. It looks like Call of Duty in VR, more than Contractors even. It looks like it has a campaign. It looks smooth. It looks polished. This game alone is going to sell headsets. And when people get their hands on a title like this for the first time as a console gamer, they're going to absolutely, it's going to blow their mind. Pistol Whip's another big one. Good game. Cities VR is coming. Another good game. Zenith, obviously, you know, I'm not a huge fan of Zenith. I think it was very overrated, but a lot of people love it, and hey, hats off to you. That's great. It's just not my style game. Actually, it is my style of game. I just didn't care for the gameplay. Anyways, After the Fall, a really, really good game. After the Fall is fantastic. This is another one that I think, you know, people are gonna step into a much more content-rich After the Fall nowadays with this, and there's probably gonna be even more content because they're gonna be pushing this. This game is a full-fledged out experience. Aside from that, there's some other games coming. I know there's Pavlov is going to be coming, which is, of course, is a huge hit title on PCVR. So, and I'll put that list up on screen. You guys are feel free to pause it, take a look at all the games that have been announced so far, and, you know, do your due diligence, look at some trailers, look at some reviews. Some of these games are already out. Some of them are in early access. Overall, there's actually a solid list of games coming to this thing. So you're not going to, if you buy this, you're not going to be without games. With that being said, we have reached the point of this video that why this is going to change VR. And if you made it this far, congratulations. I'm excited to talk to you about this because I am really excited about this. For the first time, I feel like finally it's making a return. True, good VR is making a return. Finally, thank you, PCVR gods, even though this is a console VR. Anyways, that's the first point I'm going to make. It's a console. That's huge. It's so big because the console gaming people between Xbox and PlayStation, now Xbox obviously doesn't have a VR, but PlayStation's a huge conglomerate. There is, as we know, us PC gamers, you know, a lot of you Quest gamers out there are probably console gamers as well. A lot of you are. Some of you are PC gamers. Us PC gamers, we're above and beyond. We go with this gaming PC. I build this massive rig with all these components, and, you know, great. I'm a gaming enthusiast. That's what I do. There's a massive amount of players that just want to buy a console and not think about it and then just go play console. And I was one of them for a long time. I loved playing my PlayStation. I loved my Xboxes growing up. It was amazing. The fact that we're going to get a headset of this type of quality on a console, it will reach so many people. And when that does, because it's on a console, that's my next point. Because it's on a console, the games are tailored to be able to run at a high resolution and high graphical quality on those consoles, and they have to, because that's what sells. When people pick up a new Battlefield game or a new Call of Duty game or whatever it is on the console, a new Madden game, they expect top-notch graphics. The PlayStation 5 is capable of putting out top-notch graphics. Now, I understand VR is a lot more on the processing than, a traditional screen game would be, but even a step down from maybe like the most beautiful game you've ever seen, in VR, you could step down just a little bit, just enough, but it still feels really, really good. Most of the massive player base that is out there on the Oculus Quest does not have that feature. The games they're decent. They have okay graphics. There's some good ones out there that have some pretty good graphics on them, no doubt, but it's not like a PC VR. This headset is going to give players a mass amount of players, some of them being even Quest users that maybe go and pick up a headset, right? Or people that are stepping into VR for the first time that have always said, I'm not, I don't know, maybe when it comes out, I'm a console gamer, and oh, well, this actually looks like a good headset now, finally. This is where it's going to make waves, because people are going to put this headset on. It's going to have the type of processing power as a mid-range PC VR headset would. You may not be able to crank the resolution all the way. It may not be, what I can run on an RTX 3090 card, but even if it's one step below that and many steps above an Oculus Quest 2, it's going to blow people's minds. It's just that simple. It's going to blow people's minds. Because I remember the first time I put on an Oculus CV1 with those crappy specs compared to today, it blew my mind. And when the first time I stepped into a PC VR game with the hand controllers, it blew my mind. Think about this too. This is another point I want to make right here. The PlayStation VR never had touch controllers the way that we have modern VR controllers. They had the wands, they had some gun things, they could use the DualShock. I will never forget, because I originally bought the headset before the touch controllers even came out. I was playing flight sims and I was like, this is super cool. I was using joysticks. I was like, this is awesome, right? The first time I stood up into a play space and I reloaded a gun with my hands for the first time and I aimed down the sights and I fought somebody else with it. It was like the most surreal experience. I dreamt of it. I dreamt of that as a kid. As a kid, I always thought, wait until I can actually be in the video game. For the first time, I was in the video game. And I was playing on a crappy Oculus CV1 with a freaking gaming laptop with a 970 card in it, right? I'm playing on an RTX 3090 now with a desktop, and I can certainly see the improvements, and I could never go back to that. But it was like a moment for me where I was like, oh my God, I'm in the game. And I'm in the game with my hands, and I can touch and feel and grab guns and all this stuff. There's a massive generation. And remind you, I remember what I said, 5 million of the original sold. I expect this probably is going to break records in VR on the console. People are going to set foot into VR, into real, not arcadey, hey, yeah, that's really cool, can't wait to see where it goes in the next couple years. They're going to set foot into real, high resolution, AAA virtual reality games on a console, and they're going to be blown away. And from that point, word's going to spread, word of mouth spreads, and people are going to be all in on VR. And we're going to have a revolution. It's going to be a VR revolution. We're going to start getting games. High quality games like Half-Life Alyx are going to be coming back around the corner. We're going to have so many more players. Multiplayer games are not going to die out, even if it's a really good game. A game like Hyper Dash is a good example, right? I loved Hyper Dash so much. What a fun game, but it's harder to find a lobby, especially if you're playing at off hours, right? Those are the things that are not going to happen anymore. We're going to finally have enough players to support games. Look at Population 1, what they're about to do with their massive creative mode in that game. I don't think there's enough players right now for what they're trying to do in the game. To be honest, I think that it's going to be, but when this Population 1 will end up on PlayStation VR 2, it hasn't been announced yet, but it will end up on there. Definitely, I'm convinced of it. Then they're going to have enough players to do different things with no bottlenecking. That's the thing, the console won't have the bottleneck that the mobile headset has. So it's a huge deal. It's a massive deal. And it gives developers reasons to develop better games because they actually have a player base on the PlayStation. you're going to see this tier structure that's going to lay out. They're using these new softwares that are able to port VR games into all platforms, right? They're going to have an upper echelon of graphical tiers that are going to be tailored towards PC and PlayStation VR, which is finally going to give PC VR players actually like good games again, right? We're going to be able to see the cutting edge graphics that are on some of these games that are developed. And then they'll also have a lower level setting for the Oculus Quest 2 for all those users, and the future Meta Quest 3 that's coming out. There's so much happening right now, and there's going to be so many good games coming finally, because this year sucked for games, and we all know it. It's been terrible for games. The other thing I think that this is going to do, and this is probably the last point I'm going to make, this is going to force Xbox's hand, which is only better for us, because it means more games, more players, more headsets sold. It's going to force Xbox's hands, because I think they're going to sell enough headsets that Xbox is going to go, we're missing the boat. We got to get in on this. We got to get in on this. Here's the difference. Meta is using Xbox Game Pass on the Oculus Quest 2. I would be dumbfounded to not think that Microsoft and Meta won't team up to create a headset that is backwards compatible with PC, that can run on the Xbox, might even be standalone too. That's going to blow the socks off of everybody. This is good overall for VR. This is so big because now so many people are going to have the opportunity to set foot into high level VR, the way that us PC VR people do. All of us content creators out there, for the most part, most of us use a PC. Most of us play the PC VR games because we're the ones that are on the edge. We're on the frontier. We're experiencing what the next generation is to give you guys this ability so that we can help you in making a decision whether or not you should spend $1,500 on a headset that really, I don't think had that many improvements over an Oculus Quest 2 that costs $300, right? That's why we do this. That's why we're in this. We're on the cutting edge. So we're always going to be trying to upgrade our PCs to be up at the max. But for us to really enjoy VR, we need you guys. We need you guys to also set foot into VR so we can have the games and the experiences we always play. Every gamer is different. Every single one of us has our own preferences when it comes to video games. I'm more into competitive video games. I also love RPG games. And, you know, we just don't have a ton of those right now available. I want more games. So I have more options. If I'm in the mood to play a sci-fi RPG, I have that. If I'm in the mood to play a fantasy RPG, I have that. If I'm in the mood to play a competitive VR shooter like Pop 1, I have it. Right now, there's still a limited selection because if it's a multiplayer game, one, there has to be a player base. And if it's a RPG game, you know, some of the ones on PC are kind of, you know, they're just not all there, right? You know, we got Asgard's Wrath is probably the best VR RPG game I've ever played, right? And that's the only one that came out a couple years ago, right? We haven't gotten another one. So this is so big for all of us. This is going to change the VR landscape for every single one of us. It's going to be just so impressive and immersive and just awesome. And I just can't wait to see where VR is at a year from today, because this headset launches in February of 2023 here, coming up right around the corner. And we're going to get a massive swath of games, because when this headset launches with all these games, people are going to start hopping into VR. Their friends are going to be talking, I got that new VR. It's incredible. I've never experienced anything like this before. You have to get it. Just the other day, for example, I'm trying to convince my roommate from college, who's, you know, one of my best friends, right? You know, we loved playing video games all throughout college together. We used to binge games for hours and hours. And I'm like, dude, get a VR for God's sakes. And he's like, oh, I don't know. I kind of like to sit down when I play video games. And I'm like, this is just, you can sit down playing VR. You can. Whether you want to or not is up to you. I don't like to do that. I'm gonna tell you the first one. I come home from work, I want to sit down and just chill, right? Not when I'm playing VR. VR for me is, I don't care. I'll stand up. I'll play for 8 hours straight. It doesn't bother me because it's like, it's that next level for me. And that argument for me is just so backwards thinking. It's just because it's because they've never experienced it. They haven't actually set foot into what it's like to fully immerse yourself into a game world like that. And that is why this headset, this PlayStation VR, it's going to reach a lot of people like that. People that have never put on a VR headset or put on a mobile VR headset and played, you know, a Beat Saber or something. Like, oh yeah, it was cool to be in the game world, or like, you know, played something like that, but they never experienced a full-fledged title, a VR title that is really powerful. Something that puts you into the world so much that you kind of forget what you're doing. And all you're thinking about is your task at hand and you're there. That's what this headset's going to do. And it's going to be freaking awesome. Well, guys, that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed my rant on why I love VR and why I think this headset's going to be amazing. please do drop a like, subscribe to my channel, and I am going to be bringing out a MetaQuest 3 wishlist video here this weekend probably. I want to talk about some of the things that we want to see in the MetaQuest 3, and what's going to be important to continue to push VR forward, because assuming that headset comes out in fall, we got some time, and hopefully they can hear some of our things that we want. So if you guys have anything, do comment in the comment section below. I like reading those comments. I do enjoy it. Press that like button, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.